Well, it seems like we've reached that point where the January 6th committee does, well, kind of what everyone thought they were going to do. Why? Because this is a committee stacked with Trump haters. It has Democratic Trump haters. It has a couple of Republican, never Trump haters. People like Adam Kinzinger and, of course, the fanatical Liz Cheney. Let's go back and remember that this is a committee that was supposed to have Republican and Democratic members. Kevin McCarthy had nominated people like Jim Jordan to be on the committee. And basically, Nancy Pelosi said, no, I get to pick not only the Democrats in the committee, but also the Republicans. So Jordan withdrew those names. And this is how the committee ended up being this kind of an ideological hit operation. It's always been that. And so even though you read media articles, January 6th investigation is a joke. There's no real investigation. There's, first of all, what does the January 6th committee say about the killing of Ashley Babbitt? Answer, nothing. They have tried to keep that completely off stage. What do they have to say about Roseanne Boyland? Nothing. What do they have to say about Ray Epps? Nothing. So the January 6th committee is really a propaganda operation, a show trial operation. By the way, we know that former ABC News executive James Goldston has been literally choreographing these public hearings as media events, knowing, of course, that there's a kind of, butt-licking media that's all too eager to sort of service the January 6th committee, kind of in the manner that a dog might service a hydrant. So this criminal referral is kind of meaningless. Now, of course, Debbie's like, well, it may not be meaningless. The DOJ might jump on it because those guys are made up of the same kind of people as the January 6th committee. But I mean, that was true even before. They don't need a January 6th recommendation, even though they could then point to it and go, well, the January 6th committee referred us, therefore we're proceeding with an indictment. So Debbie thinks it is quite likely that there will be some kind of indictment against Trump. And I think so too. Why? Because these people are so desperate to try to keep that guy off the ticket. Of course, they will do everything they can politically. They'll try to promote DeSantis. They'll try to, in fact, now I've recently seen that, with this talk about the January 6th committee recommendation of a criminal referral, we're now seeing Chris Christie is energized, Nikki Haley is energized, Scott Walker is energized. I mean, I don't know who writes this nonsense. It is downright laughable. The idea that any of these guys is a serious candidate at this point, I think cannot be taken with any degree of seriousness by anybody who knows the GOP base. These are the people who are going to be voting in the primaries. So I think I can claim to be a on the front line expert on this subject. And it is very clear right now that the heart of the GOP is by and large with Trump. It's not unambiguously with Trump because there's a worry that Trump could lose it, Trump could stumble, Trump could go on the wrong track, Trump could have the wrong people around him who push him on the wrong track. So there are anxieties and concerns about Trump, but he's the presumptive favorite. There's a lot of goodwill toward DeSantis, of course, a recognition that it's early. So all of this is the left is not confident that the GOP will give a thumbs down to Trump. Therefore, they go, let's go with the indictment. And that's really what I think for Liz Cheney. If you look at her miserable career, I mean, here's someone whose own constituents have basically told her to take a hike. Virtually all the Republicans on the January 6th committee are exiting the stage. Their careers are finished. I mean, maybe they'll resurface as analysts on MSNBC. I don't know. They could have sort of these second careers where they're handed out the left's cultural perks for their good service on the January 6th committee. But apart from that, there's not much of a future for them. Now, what's going on in the DOJ? Well, the DOJ announces, Merrick Garland, I'm going to appoint an independent prosecutor. He's going to hit the ground running. It's this guy named Jack Smith. By the way, a guy with a kind of left-wing track record, a guy who's clearly a Trump opponent. But as it turns out, and Julie Kelly is the one who sort of broke this story, Jack Smith isn't even in the country right now. Where is he? Well, he's in the Netherlands. What happened to him? Well, apparently he was injured and he's recovering from surgery in the Netherlands. So they've been creating in Washington, D.C. this false impression, which the media is going with. We got this guy, Jack Smith. He's on the case. He's got all his team lined up. Jack Smith is basically, as I understand it, on a bed with his knees up in the Netherlands. Now, what's going on with the DOJ is they have transferred a bunch of their own prosecutors from inside the DOJ over to Jack Smith's office. So they want to give the idea that we're running this independent inquiry with this guy, Jack Smith. Jack Smith's nowhere to be found. He'll probably show up at some point, but it's the same gang of DOJ prosecutors doing the same kind of work. So the Jack Smith thing appears to be an illusion. Let's pretend like there's this new guy. He's calling the shots. He's going to make an independent decision. No, it's the same old guys who've now been moved over into his office. So this is really how the government operates, but it's also how the left operates. It's smoke and mirrors. It's all aimed at using the resources of the media to fool the American people.